do that.
Yeah. Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Talking Niagara this morning. It is Wednesday, September 3rd, and this will be the last show for this week. I've got a trial away out of town, so not going to be here. What happened?
Oh, I was trying to get up Mike's post, and a cartoon came up.
Okay, so Mike has put a post up, which I think is an important thing to put up, just as a warning, because I think it's something that we ought to be aware of. Mike is basically saying between 5 and 7 p.m. every day, the Niagara Falls wastewater treatment plant is releasing affluent into the Ontario Hydro Canal and Houthis Lake, Ontario. They're not releasing treated water, it's contaminated raw sewage. And he was calling the wastewater treatment plant and asked about the release into the hydro canal, and they said that was where we release it. And he was asking about how much, and because he was pointing out the fact there's horrible sewage smell, and asked them to look into it. And he does not have any information about it. They didn't have any information about this, but they don't deny dumping the raw sewage at this time, right? So Mike is saying clearly that it's disturbing, and you can release it without the knowledge of how much raw sewage and what damage this is doing to all of us. You can visually and physically see this from 5 to 7 p.m. walking on the bridge near Whirlpool Road and River Road. So it's on
that's that bridge that goes over there. Yeah, it gets pretty smelly there sometimes, and I just assumed it was all.
I have noticed it's smelly, yes, as well. Yeah,
at different times, but that it does get really ripe there sometimes. So that might be the time in which 5 to 7, that Mike says here, where they dump the raw sewage. So if they're actually doing that, if they're doing that, we should know about it. And he's asked these hard questions, and what he is just getting, they're not denying it's raw sewage or whatever. They're just not. They're playing. They can't get into it. Basically, he's gonna have to go right to a politician.
Or is this? I have to ask the question: is this a problem because we have an old sewage plant that is now incapable of handling the needs of Niagara Falls?
That's probably it. We've been hearing about this for a very long time, that our sewage plants are under capacity, and
over capacity.
Over capacity. They're under. Yeah.
Not capable, what we demand of.
So basically, we've heard about this kind of thing. How much raw sewage are we actually putting into the hydro canal? There is no denial that it is raw sewage, but there is no confirmation either. So the guy who he was talking to was must have been very politically acquainted. Don't say anything, don't deny, but don't confirm that it's raw sewage. So basically, we're going to have to go to a politician to get the confirmation there.
Apparently, there were according to Gary Wilkins, there were lots of hydro and hydro staff there yesterday and regional staff there yesterday.
What they were doing, who knows? Now, this is a common problem. I don't know if you remember, years ago, the city of Niagara Falls, New York, used to dump its raw sewage right into the river close to the falls, just a little down from the falls. It used to come out there all the time because they had the same problem. They did not have the facilities to take care of their waste. We are probably in that situation as well. We don't have enough capacity to deal with our waste, so we're going to have to dump the surplus of it out.
I think that is what's going on. Yeah, that's for sure. That seems to me what's going on anyway. I've noticed that smell from every once in a while. Good morning, Mike. I couldn't place to what time of the day it is. I've noticed it in the evening. I've also noticed it first thing in the morning sometimes.
Yeah, remember though, the planet's going to be a smelly place anyway because it deals with.
I know, and that's what I put 90% of the smell I get there down to.
There's definite times where it exhausts something.
Yeah,
and that's because it's overcapacity and it can't work properly. So it's going to have to release the fumes sometimes, and a lot of it that has to do with the bacteria that's breaking down the waste product, and it will just let go the smells that it requires to do that. The new plant, I don't know how it's going to work or how smelly it's going to be. But
basically, Mike is saying from 5 to 7 p.m. seems to be the release times, and it's particularly bad during heavy rainfall. There you go.
Yeah, that fits too, because we don't have the capacity to deal with our rainwater either.
Issue. I'm pretty sure it's a capacity issue.
Yeah. So the plant just cannot take on. Well, the city has been trying for a very long time to separate rain sewers from sewage, because at one time they were all kind of combined, and it made it impossible for the sewage plants to take on that much water and try to treat what should be treated and what wasn't. Now, if you separate the rainwater from the sewage water, that it gives you more. You are actually treating the water that needs to be treated, but we don't know the state of the sewage plant, only that it is working too hard and it's being held together with duct tape and wire. And so I don't know how they would fix that. They don't have the capacity to deal with it. So what do they do with it?
Yeah.
Any extra? If they could only deal with 70% of it, where's 30% going to go? It's going to go into the Hydro Canal.
And of course, 5 to 7 p.m. is probably the time when people come home, had dinner, and dump, if you know what I mean.
Well, I don't.
I'm trying to be.
I don't know if it's
here, sir. Also, Gary Wilkins just said on a text to me, May Avenue, a battery water treatment plant is not stinky like that, Wills.
Yeah, we do know, like, the way in which the sewage is treated is basically it's bacteria, I think, that they introduce in sewage that.
Yeah, it just basically gets turned onto the top of anything of this thing, and those continual water. That's all I know about them, is that there seems to be some rotating stuff that clears the effluent, right? I don't know how that kind of works. Not an expert in that kind of stuff, but
I think they keep a bacterial culture going on in there, that with the bacteria itself consumes the waste and clears it. They do a similar thing in that.
Yeah.
They do a similar thing in the refinery down in Nanticoke. They have what is called the bug plant, where actually they have microbes of some kind that will eat up a lot of the oil.
Yeah.
And and take the oil out of it. Now, I don't know what they do with the. Now, of course, when you have bugs or bacteria or anything like that eating up affluent or whatever, what do they do then with the bacteria that has, or the bugs that have been gone through their cycle of life? I don't know what happens to them. Do they settle to the bottom of the collecting pond? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, when anything like this happens, whatever is consuming it will release methane, for one thing.
Yeah.
And that's what it smells like. It smells like methane, and it smells like raw sewage. So I don't know what is responsible actually for this smell, except that if it is dumped into the hydro canal, of course it's going to stink to high heaven. And you know what that means? If it goes through the hydro canal, it goes through the turbines, and that means we got dirty power.
Dirty power. I love it. Okay. All right. I'm sure we'll come back to this one. Mike's always digging new things up. So I'm sure we'll be back at this plant. And hey, it's probably, I think this is more pressure to get the new plant up and running.
Well, they can only build it so fast.
I know. And I know they can only build it so fast, and if they shortcut things, they will tend to cause problems. I get it. All right.
Yeah, they gotta stay the course, build it well, get it up and going. Yeah. The tragedy of course, is the politicians have kicked this one down the road so far. Yeah. That we are being reactive, not proactive, and those are probably Mike and Gary.
Yeah, problem time.
Gary Wilkins and Mike Cushman's words on this. Reactive, not proactive, is what we seem to do, and unfortunately, this was bad planning by previous politicians.
Absolutely, yeah. We should have been probably this plant. Well, there's two thoughts about this plant. If we'd have built it, say, 10 years ago, we probably wouldn't have put the capacity in that we need now. Whereas if we build it now, we'll probably put the excess capacity. Nobody would have thought this city would have built to 100,000 people by now. You know, that was not part of any city.
No, that's not the case, because when they built a new one, they don't build it for the existing population. They build it for planned population.
Yeah. But
so they would have built it for capacity of a city much larger than we have, because they would have expected growth.
Yeah, I'm well aware of that. What I'm saying, Dave, is that I think the plans. We have a city that's about 100,000 size now. If nobody would have dreamed that 10, 15 years ago, and not even in the wildest projections would they put 10 to 50, 100,000 people here in this city right now. Right? So in a way, the good thing is that we can re-estimate, and maybe we build this for a 200,000 population, not 100,000 population.
Or get it built and then start building the other one right away.
Well, that then basically rebuild the old one. I don't
know if you can rebuild the old one, but I mean, you probably have to just gut the whole thing.
I don't know. I'm not an expert in that type of thing anyway. But yeah, you get what I mean. All right. Okay. So Niagara region went from 500,000 to 700,000 in a very quick time. Wastewater treatment is in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. The CRA, Ottawa is telling the CRA to fix its call center problem. Basically, National Revenue Minister Francois Philippe Champagne has instructed the CRA to devise a 100-day plan to improve its service to call centers. And basically, there was a CBC story last month that's talking about mounting frustration Canadians are having with CRA connecting to an agent and trying to get get through. And basically, I have the same issue. I tried to get through to get something done, and what we're talking 4 weeks ago. Nobody's called me back at all.
No, and I could tell you my own experience with them. I called them back in the fall. I had tax problems that I had to fix. They're all fixed now, mind you, but
yeah.
So I had things to fix.
The issue that I had I did manage to find out how to fix it, but more by kind of tinkering with this and tinkering with that online than anything else. But it was something that had I gotten through to somebody at the CRA, I could have probably fixed it in about 5 minutes, right?
Well, that's the point. Like
Yeah.
but there is a problem because I phoned them back in the fall, back in November.
Yeah.
And I got one young lady. She was very nice and everything, but she gave me the wrong information.
Yeah.
To do, like, she gave me the incorrect address to send a form to, and then she transferred me to some other guy who said that to send the form and all that, but he had a kind of a thick accent, and so I did send the form, and about 3 weeks later, I got a phone call from BC at after 5 p.m. with a guy with a super thick accent, telling me that I owed the government $5,000, and I says, I just figured all that out. I don't owe them a dime. As a matter of fact, the government owes me money, and he's saying, "Oh well, you got to pay it in a couple months, or there's gonna be illegal stuff." And I told him, it says, "I already settled this. I settled it. I did everything, But he says, "Oh well, I can't see it here and whatever." And then I ended up phoning back the CRA, and they then told me that, everything was on delay because there was so much work they had to do, and it won't be resolved to February, late January, maybe early February. But I didn't get an email from them until March, and then I had to. That wasn't even correct, so I had to phone them the second time. This time when I tried to phone them, I could not get through.
Yeah.
So all I did was keep phoning the numbers and hitting 0 as many times as I could. And after about 20 minutes of doing this over and over again, I finally got somebody, a lady from Newfoundland, who was perfect. She knew everything. She cleared it up in 10 minutes. Everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Done.
Yeah. Train your agents properly, have more of them, and get the system going. Now, according to the union spokesman, whose name I can't find right this second, the union spokesman basically has been saying that they've stripped about 3,000 jobs. Right. The union basically blames call center problems on job cuts. It says 3,300 call center employees have lost their jobs since May of 24, and that they're calling upon the CRA to actually, employ more. Mark Briere is the union. It is Mark Briere from the Union of Taxation Employees.
So to address the problem, the CRA is reallocating and adding resources to ensure more calls are answered. He also said the CRA will pilot new scheduled tools that enhance efforts to promote digital services, such as the agency's AI-enabled chatbot. Well, that's my problem there, was they kept, every time I phoned them, they tried to push me to some sort of electronic thing. And when I used it, the chat couldn't answer my questions at all. And it did was refer me to sites which I couldn't understand. So it had a bunch of stuff to do or not do, which I couldn't figure out how to do. That's why I wanted to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
But every time I try to talk to somebody, they give me a chat or give me this long preamble about, you can do this if you go on the CRA site, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. The whole point was, if I talked to somebody for a couple of minutes, I could have it fixed. And that's exactly what happened finally. But
Well,
the
you're
chat,
not-
they think that there's to serve you better is to take away phone calls and make you deal with a chat thing.
I'm not saying
Somebody much younger than me could do that easily,
Yeah.
I suppose. But I'm telling you, where the chat led me to were places that didn't help, and they couldn't resolve my problem.
And again, I'm not saying you're not tech savvy. I think you're reasonably competent on a computer. But again, as with any older person who's my age or older, there's always a challenge. There's some of the new technology stuff that is a challenge to anybody, and you kind of, if you don't know how if you intuitively don't know how it works, it's kind of go, well, that doesn't work for me. The other thing is that I would say that one CRA has spent the last 2 years chasing people who owe CERB or other COVID related benefits. They've wasted a lot of time. They've wasted a lot of time and effort doing that.
Well, maybe, but that all should be resolved a long time ago, and that shouldn't be an issue with CRA at this point. What?
They're still chasing.
Still chasing, but that shouldn't have anything to do with the response time of a normal person trying to get information from the CRA. That's something.
I don't know. Angela was telling me that eventually, her last conversation with the CRA, they'd finally accepted that she didn't owe them CERB money.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah. Oh, guess what? Guess what we found? Well, that's what I've been telling you the whole time.
Yeah. Like, and it came as a coincidence because she was talking to the CRA about something entirely different. And so they are chasing CERB even today, right? They're still chasing it through the system.
Yeah, but that shouldn't really affect the telephone stuff. If they're after somebody for CERB, then they would be phoning that person, not the other way around most of the time. They'd be sending an issue in them letters. It shouldn't have anything to do with the call center and the response, especially during tax time when you need a bunch of people ready and willing to speak to the average taxpayer.
Yeah. One thing I will say before we get off of this, okay, so Mike makes a cynical comment. Your call is important to us as you wait to talk to an agent. Yeah. Yeah. If it were important to you, you'd employ more agents.
I tell you, back in November, I phoned and they said they had too many people and they would phone me back. And that they're and to expect, and they give me a number, agent or a case number or whatever it was, and then I was supposed to make sure that corresponded with their information when they phoned back. So they did phone back, back in November, but later on I couldn't get anywhere near there to talk to anyone at all. And like I said, I just kept hitting zeros. Like I kept hitting options and then 0, and all that. And then finally doing one of those things, I finally got somebody on the other end. But it wasn't because it was easy to do. It was I was kind of just pushing as many zeros at the system as possible.
Yeah.
I guess one of them just finally got through, and that took me about 20 minutes, half an hour to do that.
Yeah. All right.
That was different from back in November when they said they put me on a list, and when my time came, someone would call me back, which they did in November, but which they wouldn't do thereafter.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, the CRA needs to get its act together. That's for sure. And I'm glad that.
Number one thing, it doesn't matter if you hire somebody with an accent, but come on, let's get an accent we can understand. My God, my brother had to go through something to do with the government a little while ago, and he just had to ask him over and over again, what did you say? Say it again. Say it again. If you're gonna, it's okay to hire a new Canadian, but make sure that the English they speak
or
is
the French,
understandable,
or the French.
or the French.
Yeah. In fact, they're probably more. They're probably harsher on the French use of French than they are on the use of English, and they shouldn't be.
Well, it's much less an issue in Quebec.
Okay. So moving on. Yemen Prime Minister Ahmed Ghalib Nasir al Rahawi and other ministers were killed as a result of an Israeli strike last week.
Yeah, where did you put that on here?
That was an older article. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah, I read about that. What they did was they killed the Houthi prime minister of Yemen, and that was the Israelis that killed him. They have this ability to do surgical strikes or not so surgical sometimes, but to kill, to track and kill prominent people and assassinate them. Now this guy was probably not, like, he was the prime minister, so he wasn't. They probably didn't do any great benefit to themselves by doing this, because this guy was a non-military personnel as I understand it. He was the prime minister, not the military wing of the Houthis. So all that's going to do is ensure that the Houthis hide themselves better and fire more rockets at Israel. That's a problem, and the Houthis still are choking off the Red Sea. There are better protections for shipping now, but and Trump made some kind of an agreement with the Yemenis, which was abrogated, and of course they started up again. I don't know. This is Yemen is a serious problem. It should be a fairly wealthy country because it's got resources there. It also has the largest arable section of the Arabian Peninsula, basically. It's got quite a big population, but for its size, but it's sectarially split between the Houthis and the Sunni population. And the Houthis are follow a sect of Islam that is more closely aligned with the Shia than the Sunni. So it's tribal, it's ethnic, it's religious, it's economical. So it's a real mess.
Yeah.
And throughout all this, the Houthis have been managing, even with the fall of Iran, basically, or the sort of isolation of Iran, they're still getting the things they need to shoot rockets into Israel. Hypersonic type rockets into Israel. So I don't see what the Israelis gained by this, by killing the prime minister.
He's not a military leader after all. He's,
I don't know how powerful a leader was, how magnetic he was, how much power he actually carried. When you have a very powerful military wing to a government, quite often the political side of it doesn't have a whole lot of say. It's up there just for for show. So I don't know what the Israelis gained by that. It'd be interesting to find out what their side of the story is, but they really don't tell you the truth anyway, so that's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. So that's about all we know. Just really throw that one in there because it was something we found over the weekend. Moving on, and
Yeah, well, but the one last thing I say about what about the revenge thing? Now, like if you keep doing that,
yeah,
then there's a revenge thing, and they were and they made a deal with Trump, and then Trump backpedaled on that one. They haven't forgotten that one either. So they made a deal with the Trump administration, but then they said, remember, Trump said, "Oh, that's all. They're not going to do that anymore. They're not going after ships. I've settled that." But then he backpedaled on that one, and they haven't forgot that part of it. So I don't know how much power they have left now that Iran is being pretty much isolated. That's where they got their resources from. But still, the message is out there: don't make a deal with anybody because they're gonna turn their back on it, and they're continuing as long as Israel is doing what it's doing in Gaza. The Houthis are going to try to throw missiles at Israel, which is, I mean, there's more innocent people getting killed. What do we need? More innocent people getting killed. So there's going to be a revenge thing by the Houthis. We don't know how much, but there is, and that can't be great.
No. All right. Okay. Obviously that will be something that we won't know about that until it happens. All right.
Yep.
Okay. Moving on. Trump is to reward Rudy Giuliani for his role in trying to get Trump the victory at the last election and the 2020 election.
Yeah, he's going to give them what is it, the highest civilian honor,
Presidential Medal of Freedom,
which is the highest civilian honor somebody can get.
Yeah,
from the state. He gave it to Rush Limbaugh, I think, the last time he was in too, or something like that. What that does is just kind of washes thin the honor that they're giving, because Rudy Giuliani helped Trump, or try to help Trump overcome his 2020 loss. He tried to find any means by which to negate the win that Biden got over Trump.
Yeah.
Since that time, there has been no evidence. Now it's been nearly 5 years now, and there's been absolutely no evidence that's come up that says that Trump won that election and the election was stolen from him. Yeah. None at all. Over and over and over, the claims has been that he won the election, but it was stolen from him. And over and over and over, the entire Republican Party, with all their money and all their resources, and Trump himself with all his money and all his resources, have never been able to make any of those claims real. As a matter of fact, he's on the phone with the governor of Georgia, insisting the governor of Georgia find him 11,000 votes. If he finds him 11,000 votes, then he'll win Georgia. Well, you can't find 11,000 votes, obviously. And Georgia recounted their votes over and over again. So did Arizona over and over again. And and no matter what they did, no matter what kind of investigations they did, nothing was wrong.
Yeah.
You know, so, but they keep claiming this, because if they don't, that means Biden won and Trump lost, and he can't handle that. So if you're going to be a Trump loyalist, you got to pretend that he won the 2020 election, even if you don't believe that he did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think he did. And, it's, and in the same way, there were people in the 24 election that basically couldn't believe he won.
Yeah. Well, in 2016, Hillary Clinton launched her own investigations because she couldn't really understand where the certain states she lost. And it was very clear to her that, and when she did her investigation and asked for recounts, the recounts were actually towards Trump than her. So it's very conspicuous that she lost, and she
Yeah.
accepted that
Yeah.
loss. But Trump's a wimp, but he can't accept it. So, but this perpetuates, and guys like Rudy Giuliani have helped perpetuate that. So now he's getting an award for trying to overturn the elected results of the 2020 election because he's a Trump loyalist. It's very, very clear now. If you believe my lies, and if you say you believe my lies, guess what? I'm going to honor you some way or another if we can. So I'm going to honor Rudy Giuliani right now. Now, Rudy Giuliani performed very well he was a lame duck mayor of New York at the time of the attacks of 9/11. He was going to be leaving office, but in the meantime, he maintained it, just like he was a lame duck mayor. But he responded very well to the attacks that happened, and he gained some.
You mean in 2001 he was actually heading out of office when the attacks occurred?
Yeah,
so in his last few months of office.
Yeah, and so he responded very well and got some credibility for his.
And I remember that New Yorkers actually praised him for what he did actually during those months. So he's actually, whilst he's a controversial individual, he's got a lot of support in New York.
Yeah, but he has followed the same. He doesn't believe in democracy. If he had done, he wouldn't have done what he did. For number one, he tried to help Trump overturn the election with notables like Sidney Powell, who nobody will touch with a 10-foot pole. No Republican anymore because she's too nutty. But at the time, she was useful. And Giuliani was side by side with her, trying to come up with conspiracy theories. If he was a real person, a real lawyer, he would have looked at the facts. But he didn't want to look at the facts. He saw some plum jobs coming his way if Trump won. So he's a discredited person. And Trump's going to give him an award, just like he did Rush Limbaugh. Now, Rush Limbaugh, he gave an award. Rush Limbaugh was a right-wing influencer. He wasn't a good journalist. Nothing. He was a right-wing influencer that made a lot of money, just inventing things or exaggerating things or whatever, getting everybody else stirred up. But the message was clear. If you're on my side, we'll get you an award. So I find that's all part of the Trump thing. Trump's got to go. Trump has got to go because he is eroding the democracy of the United States, and even in symbolic gestures like this, taking someone who was responsible for the riots and the refusal of the administration to accept the facts. He's getting an award. This is kind of like giving Robert E. Lee award for the Civil War.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. I guess. All right. Moving on. Doug Ford calls out Crown Royal for leaving Ontario. In fact, they're leaving Canada.
Well, actually, they're still going to be distilled here in Canada, but it's going to be bottled in the United States and Quebec. Ontario is very angry because of the town of Amherst, Crown Royal is bottled. But what the new European owners are going to do with Crown Royal is start to globalize it, basically, I guess, in an attempt to make their product more acceptable in the United States with the new politics or whatever. I don't know what their motivation is. They're going to move the bottling plant from Amherst into the United States and maybe some of it into Quebec. This is what Ford is really mad about. That's why he took a bottle of Crown Royal and poured it on the ground. He pointed out that $750 million they make Every year, this particular brand, which is very, very popular, it's good whiskey. I'll attest to that. And he poured it on the ground saying, look, you want to hurt us, we're going to hurt you. Now, the fact is, maybe a lot of us won't buy Crown Royal now because of what their decisions are making. We've got to be pretty careful here. It's still distilled in Canada. So if you put a sort of a ban on Crown Royal, who's it going to hurt? Is it going to hurt the people who distill it here in Canada because Canadians are not buying as much of it?
This is more of a protest demonstration by Ford than anything else, isn't it? You know, pouring a bottle of Crown Royal onto the ground is just simply symbolic.
Yes, it is symbolic, but it's very effective symbolism. And I hope the international are paying attention to this. I don't know what the market for Crown Royal is outside of Canada, but you start losing it. Well, in Ontario, just in Ontario, it's $750 million.
Well, again, I can say that, hey, I've never heard of Crown Royal before coming to Canada as a whiskey. But that said, we're in a different market now. We're talking 20 years on. What was true 20 years ago isn't necessarily true today. So I don't know what the international market is for Crown Royal either.
It's big, particularly in the States.
Yeah.
The Americans like Canadian whiskey as we like their bourbon and their Jack Daniels, whatever. We like that very much up here.
Yeah.
And they down there like Canadian whiskeys always have for a very long time. They probably developed the taste for it back in Prohibition time.
Well, the interesting thing is about that is that Canadian whiskies, they're both different tastes. Bourbon's a very different taste to a Canadian whiskey. Canadian whiskies are, has totally different taste as well.
Yes, Canadian whiskeys were smoother, tastier ones. The bourbons they have a very much more alcohol taste to them or something, whatever. But
they're sharp.
Yeah,
I don't know what the official word
people
is,
drink it wrong. People drink it wrong. I would argue with these people who were drinking Jack Daniels and Coke, and I'm saying, what are you doing? You're ruining that whiskey. If you want to put Coke with something, put it with some cheap liquor.
Yeah.
Jack Daniels, what you want to do with that is sip it,
Exactly. My point exactly. I love Jack Daniels for sipping.
Yeah.
And especially the Tennessee Rye, the green label one.
Yeah. Well, Jim Beam Black is mine from the US, but I like them all, but they are sipping whiskeys. Those whiskeys are high-end whiskeys. They're sipping whiskeys. Yeah. They're not meant to be jugged or gugged or mixed.
No.
The same with Crown Royal. You don't mix it with anything. If you want to mix it, you buy cheap liquor or inexpensive liquor and put your Coke or ginger ale in that. But if you're buying high-end whiskeys, what you want to do is sip them. But aside from that, the bottles that they, if they want to take Crown Royal and bottle it in the United States, the hell with them. I mean, how much money could they be saving by doing that? Is that really something that they're making a lot of money on? Unfortunately, for one thing about the global market, globalization, that which the Trump administration is trying to stop, that caused international companies to buy. That's why Canadian liquor, whatever, is owned by people outside of our own country. A lot of our own industries are owned by people, consortiums that not only own something in Canada, but also own something in Japan or Ouagadougou or wherever else.
Mm-hmm.
So they make decisions based on little bits of dollars and cents here and there to satisfy their stockholders. Yeah. But Ford has made it very clear, you're going to put 160 people out of work. I don't like you. But then again, if we put a prohibition on Crown Royal and we don't buy it, then what about the people who distill it? Are they going to lose their jobs or get laid off? You see the quandary.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And again, I think Ford is overreacting on this one. What he needs to be dealing with is talking with the manufacturers to see if there's other alternatives.
He did. He offered them all kinds of tax breaks and incentives to keep it here. And they said, no thanks. We'll move it anyway. Yeah. So that's why he's so angry. He fought for those jobs to stay in Ontario, and they just kind of dismissed them out of hand because they don't care about people. They care about dollars and cents.
Yeah.
They don't care about people. If they were to take all the, the next move might be to take the distillery part of it to somewhere else.
Who owns Crown Royal anyway?
It's part of an international European company, and it says so right in the article. Who applies to?
I haven't been able to find it.
It's actually London-based company, but it was the French part of it that made the decision. I'm looking it up now. Label maple fines for. Oh, I'm way in the wrong spot here. There it is, right here. I'll get it up. It says here that he's angry and berated the company's European owner for moving some of the bottling to the United States.
Okay.
And
it's actually okay. I know the company involved. Okay. Diageo.
Diageo.
Diageo is actually, believe it or not, they are a London-based company, and they actually own Guinness for their sins as well.
Yeah, imagine. Okay, we're gonna move Guinness to China because we can brew it there cheaper. Yeah, see if they get away with that one. Yeah. But for instance, they might pull a move. Well, we'll make Guinness in Ireland, but we'll can it in the Caribbean or something. So because it's cheaper. So basically what Ford is putting out there is he's saying, look, you're hurting us. You're not making sound decisions. And they're just saying, no, we're just making dollars and cents decisions. And it might be political too. If they take their bottling, they can actually then advertise that Crown Royal has an American content. It employs American people. If you buy Crown Royal, the liquor comes from Canada, but people in the United States are employed bottling it and distributing it.
Well, they've got okay. So in terms of the current owner is Diageo since 2000. It's made in Canada. There's a distillery also in Manitoba and in Quebec. And they're looking at opening one in Quebec as well as this American one.
Well, the Quebec was the bottling plant, not the distillery.
Yeah, bottling. Sorry, you're right. Bottling, not
So, okay, you could say, you can move it to Quebec because, maybe it's more convenient to do some of it in Quebec, but to take part of it and then put it in the States, no. And to, particularly when your biggest market's Ontario and you want to take your bottling plant out of Ontario, that's not smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you want to build a separate bottling plant in the United States, maybe you want to do that for that market. But in the meantime, you keep the bottling plant here for Ontarians.
Yeah. That would actually make a great deal of sense. You create a second bottling plant. You
want to keep this one open. You don't want that would devastate the town of Amherst. Take 160 people out, and then you think of the reverberation of those jobs. Because everybody that has a good job then helps support the rest of the community.
Just we want to slightly correct you, sir. You've been using the name Amherst all the time. The town where this is distilled is Amherstburg, Ontario, not Amherst.
Amherstburg, sorry. Right.
You're thinking, of course, because Amherst across the river, which is quite close to us.
Well, no, there's basically Amherst or Amherstburg or Amiston or whatever is a very common name across New England and Canada, and it's based on the British general Amherst, who was kind of a hero during the French and Indian Wars, even though he was a pretty bad dude, and so lots of places got their name from him.
Yeah, but I'm just saying we do have in our local area here. We do have, of course, on the edge of Buffalo, a city of Amherst, right? And
that's
I was wondering if you were just confusing the name with, of course, our local. Amherst, of course, being local here, being Buffalo area, and I noted it. I wasn't trying to be critical. I just knew you'd kind of missed the berg on it, right?
Oh, I do that. I do that all the time. I make mistakes like that all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, Amherstburg.
Yeah.
Amherstburg,
Right.
and definitely.
Yeah.
And that's 160 jobs for a little town like that. That's going to be devastating.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to our next story.
Well, what do you expect? Like we talked about unions and stuff like that and protecting jobs the other day because of Labor Day. Well, here is the capital of swine. Doesn't care a hoot about the people of Amherstburg. No, they're looking for dollars and cents, and that's what they want, or political stripes or whatever they think they need out of this move. So there you go. That's why you need a union, because the capital of swine will let you die for $2 for $2 profit.
Yeah. Sorry. You've always got to say capitalist swine, and I've always got to laugh at that.
Yeah. Well, basically, what they were, they turn real people into things that just look for numbers. There is no morality in business, and it can be in a small business where you have a small business and you have your staff and you get personal relationships between one person and the other, and that kind of thing. But when you get big multinational companies like that, it's just dollars and cents. Hey, if we move the distillery from Canada into the United States, that will make 1,000 people poverty stricken and unable to get work and help their families. Yeah, but we make $2 more. That justifies it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So moving on, the NDP is saying use Canadian steel for the Garden City Skyway twinning project.
Yes, this is a very good idea.
I 100% agree with this. Got no criticism of that. We need to.
The problem is the kind of steel we make and the kind of steel that's going to be required for the bridge. Earlier on, Ford pointed out that we don't make I-beams here. We make a different kind of steel. The kind of steel that we make, we ship to the United States because they don't make that kind. And the United States ships steel that they specialize in that we don't make.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a problem here. Yes, take on the local fabricators for the bridge. Take on all local and Canadian contractors, sure, because the money then will be any local contractor that pays his local persons money, or even anyone from Ontario or Canada. That money will go back into their prospective community.
I'm going to go one further. Employ local people here in the Niagara region, unless they've got specific expertise.
Well, yeah, and that will happen. Yeah, it will. Most of the labor will be.
This is going to be a 10-year project
from the Niagara region.
Yeah. This is going to be a 10-year project when it starts up. They're already ramping up for it. They've already got on the St. Catharines side of the bridge, they've already got land that they put aside ready for either the off-ramp or for where they're going to be using the yard they're going to be using for the vehicles. So that's already fairly clear.
So it's going to go. But my problem is, what kind of steel do we make?
Yeah.
If we don't make the kind of steel and the beams that are required for this, what are we going to do? How do we may have to now do we if they're not pushed out of a plant, do we fabricate them? How do we use Canadian steel for the most of it? You can use all kinds of plate and everything, but if we don't make I-beams or beams like that, what do we do? How do we make them?
Yeah.
Where do we get them from?
Yeah.
Is it feasible? It's a 10-year project, so it might be beneficial for Stelco and Dofasco to make plants that will create the kind of beams that we need. We need beams and pillars and things of that kind that we don't typically make here.
Yeah.
So,
but again, that points out
Oklahoma too may be able to kick in on this one.
That points out to me, one of the things that I would say Trump therefore has done and made people think about is the fact that one should build locally all the capabilities that one needs in a local area. If we're good at producing sheet metal, sheet iron, then that's a different skill than if we need things like I-beams, right? It's a different manufacturing facility, and maybe our manufacturing facilities need to be more diverse. I don't know. I'm not knowledgeable in that area, but I take I'm just talking about.
You have to bring in the globalization thing that we've done this free trade thing across the United States and Mexico because it makes specializing in a certain thing easier in one place than the other. That's why we make more aluminum than the United States, because we have more power. So it makes more sense we make more aluminum.
Okay.
It makes more sense that we make more nickel because we have it here.
Yeah.
It makes more sense that the U.S. Refine more fuel because they have the capabilities of doing it. So that's the interconnection of the trade agreements.
Yeah.
So when your city council or when your regional council says, okay, we're going to build a bridge, but if we use U.S. steel, it's going to cost $100 billion. But if we use Canadian steel, it's going to cost $200 billion, and that's going to be leaned on the taxpayer. But on the other hand, you make the argument if we spend the $200 billion here, then that $200 billion would be reinvested in the community, but it was going to cost the taxpayer a lot more up front. You see the different arguments coming up here.
Yeah.
Now, if the government had to put a lot of money into the steel manufacturing industries in Canada so that they could make the type of steel that's required for the bridge, if it's a 10-year plan, maybe that's worth it. We don't know. It might not be worth it for us to start to build the kind of steel beams or columns that are normally made other places, what you can do. So basically, it's a trade-off. We send plate steel to them, and they send I-beams to us.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
But it's no longer a trade-off. It's a trade-off that currently hurts because of the tariff situation.
Yes. So right now we're willing to pay more in order to help our own economy, and yes, definitely. We should use all local fabricators, all local contractors. But the NDP is a little bit worried about this because because even all the things that Ford has said, they've awarded a contract recently to a U.S. company, the Mississauga. Where was it here? I have to find it. Anyway, so they're worried that the government's not really going to be strong on this. They might say what they want to say, but they're not. And list goes on. Gates final contract. I'm trying to find it here, and I'm doing so well. But anyway,
Well,
there was a
yeah, but
contract.
again, sometimes
There's a contract in Mississauga that went $140 million contract that went to in Mississauga went to an American company. If you're why did that happen?
Yeah, but again, we don't know the details. Maybe it's one of these sort of things that American company has specific skills that we do not have.
Possibly, but it went out to contractors, so that's not clearly spoken of. Especially since Ford has been hammering his chest, saying that we do Canada, we got to take care of ourselves. And if he's saying that, why did that particular contract go to an American?
Fair question. It's a fair question. We need to know more about that.
Oh yeah, Gates said, "Who gets the final contract for the bridge is particular concern in the wake of recent reports that a U.S. firm was awarded a $140 million facade contract for the new Peter Gilgan Mississauga Hospital over Ontario bidders." So a U.S. bidder beat out Ontario bidders.
Okay.
I think that has to be revisited.
Yes, please, Mr. Ford.
But as a hospital, so do you really want to lean on what if the Ontario bidders were more expensive? Do you really want to put that over to the Ontario taxpayer who is paying for it?
Okay. Good. Also a good question. Yeah. That's a fair question.
Yeah. So what was it? Were they that much
most days the peat treatment plant just takes out the floaters and dumps untreated waste onto the canal. Been doing it for forever to cut down cost. Back to the original story. Clearly,
cut down cost, but also cut down the ability to do it. I don't even think they have the ability to treat it all. That's why a lot of it gets dumped.
I think so, because we're over capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So So thank you, John. All right.
Thanks, John.
Yeah. He's probably commenting. He's probably watching the show from the beginning right now. Okay. All right. So those are some important questions you were talking about in relation to the steel, because, and we do want to get it local as possible. But again, it's a question of expertise and developing that expertise.
Well, the problem is we don't have the plants to make the kind of beams they have there, unless we fabricate them, which is a lot more costly. So there are places in the States and other countries too that can make these enormous beams and columns that we do not produce with our steel here. We make a different kind of steel for a different kind of market. Is it worth the investment to now sort of engineer these another plant that would take our steel and then form it into I-beams or columns of some kind, big, huge columns? We don't at the moment have that capacity. Is it going to be worth it to invest in the kind of machinery and engineering that will take to make those? It's interesting.
Yeah.
Now we can fab them. We can fab something up that way, but fabbing it costs a lot of money. So if you need a massive beam that's like 5 feet tall and it's got like 3-inch flanges on it and a web that's 2 inches, you can fab it up. You could make one with taking the materials and welding them up, plate and so on. You can fab it up. But what happens in the States, they have actual plants that produce that.
Yeah, but manufacturing those sort of things has got to be a lot more. There's got to be more capable of taking the higher loads and stresses that might be required, rather than one that's fabricated on the spot.
Well, the one with fabricated would have to measure up to the same kind of. It would probably even be even better if it was fabbed up. But the fact of the matter is, you take some molten steel and extrude it through a die that comes out with the size of I-beam you want. That's a lot cheaper, a lot faster, and we don't have that capability. What can we do to get that capability, or are we forced to source that material from the States?
Okay, fair question. All right, and I think we'll leave it there.
Okay, without further ado, but before I go, Gaza is getting worse and worse. As I say that every day, there's thousands and thousands of reservists being called up. They're pushing into Gaza. They've destroyed most of any kind of health care that people get. They're losing count about how many people are killed. We know at least 62,000 people are killed, 150,000 people wounded and maimed. Starvation is going on. They've stopped the relief trucks again. There seems to be no control over Netanyahu. Israel is kind of ruining its own economy and its own status as people are running away. The Orthodox Jews will not join the army, will not be forced into the army. So it's causing real friction and division within the country. But that has to stop. Journalists have to go in there. International journalists have to go in there and have to be protected because they're keeping a cloak on all the things they're doing. And of course, the United States is covering for them, which is sinful. Without further ado, I bid you adieu.
And have a great